black. You know why he didn't have to do nothing for you, just be black? Because white folks accepted him. That's all you want is acceptance. What's half of us going to do soon when you get your master's degree? Not me, but you. What you going to do when you get your master's degree? Move right into a white neighborhood. Half the adults in here live in a white neighborhood. Take a survey. We love white folks. Can't get enough of them. So when I get my degree, I'm moving into a suburb. Oh, I want to raise my kids in a nice neighborhood. Neighborhoods ain't something you move to. Neighborhoods are something you build. You don't believe me? What's going on in Baltimore right now? White folks moving in, building nice neighborhoods in your ghetto because you don't want to put your money into your people. We hate investing in ourselves. In Philadelphia, where I live, what are they doing? Cleaning out the black folks out of North Philadelphia, building million-dollar mansions where public housing once stood. You could have done the same thing. They're doing it in D.C. I was in Durham, North Carolina last week. They're doing it there. I was in Brooklyn. They're doing it there. Wherever you go, moving black folks out the hood and creating beautiful neighborhoods where poverty once existed. Why can't you do that? Because you refuse to invest in yourself. And I'm hoping I motivate one of you young folks in here, several of you, to understand that the task at hand is for you to rebuild the black community. For most of our history in America, the church has been the center of the black community. For most of our history in America, the church has been the center of the black community. And I have no problem with your religion. Let me be clear, I'm a descendant of A&E preachers. Many of my Pan-African heroes were A&E preachers. Bishop Henry McNeil Turner, the first black man to say God was black, was an A&E pastor. Elijah Muhammad went to his school as a child. That's where Elijah Muhammad learned black God. Garvey borrowed it from him. He was a man of the church. But see, that's when the black church was a revolutionary institution. That's when the black church was about agitation. And now in the Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson era, black church is about accommodation. We don't want to demand. We don't want to fight no war. We want to build relationships with our oppressor. Let's have a cup of tea. How you going to get something having a cup of tea? The black church is one of the most parasitic organizations in the world. You heard me. I ain't talking about your religion. I'm talking about the political behavior of your religious institution. How much money we get to black church every Sunday? Over $14 million a week. $14 million a week. $14 million a week. And we ain't got schools for black kids. We ain't got hospitals for our elders. We got homeless black folks. Can I ask you a question? When the last time you seen a homeless Chinese? Can I ask you a question? When the last time you seen a homeless East Indian? Can I ask you a question? When's the last time you seen a homeless European Jew? Because those communities take care of their own. Homeless black person, you'll walk right past them. That's another problem we got. We think we all have opportunities in this world. You better get over that. Black people don't all have opportunities. You can't have oppression and opportunities together. Let me just say this. You can't have it both ways. Either there's oppression in America or there's opportunities for black folks in America. Which one is it? Because you can't have oppression and opportunity. See, what you fail to realize is that the power structure will let some of you graduates from Bowie State, they will let some of you ascend to success in positions of influence. We'll give you one president, we'll give you a DA, we'll give you a Supreme Court justice, we'll make you a superintendent of Baltimore schools, we'll put you in charge of the health department, you'll be chief of police, we're going to put you over the fire department. We'll take some blacks and put them in a privileged position, but the rest of you are destined to poverty for the rest of your life. And then you know what they do? They're hoping that the bourgeoisie blacks that get the jobs and the titles, they're hoping that you don't tell the truth. And what is the truth? The truth is that although Dr. Umar Johnson got 6 degrees from 3 different institutions, the fact that I've never been to jail, that I'm self-employed and I do quite well for myself, my father was in a house, my parents were married for a part of my childhood, but that's not the everyday experience for every black male. And it would be selfish for Dr. Umar Johnson to walk to any prison in Maryland and tell them, brothers, it's your fault you're in here. It's easy to say that when you're saying it from a privileged position. Sometimes I wish educated black folks would just keep their mouth shut if you can't say something about the rest of us that's positive. I made it so we all can make it. That's a lie. You don't understand that the science of tokenism is the science of letting a few blacks make it so you can justify why the rest did not? You can't have every black person failing because then the racism is obvious. If every black kid at the University of Maryland did not get a master's or a doctorate degree, it would be obvious that it's systematic racism. So how do you fight against the illusion? You let a few get their degree so you can say, well, we have 2 or 3 who made it. What's the excuse for the rest of you guys? And what are the rules of racism, young people? Because y'all need to know them. You ain't going to believe them until it's too late because you're multicultural and you have a white Jesus complex. But the rules of racism are 3. Y'all need to learn it right now at Bowie. Before you get 30, before you get 40, before you get 50. You probably have parents and grandparents who still don't understand racism yet either because they got a white Jesus complex and a multicultural consciousness. First rule of racism is what? All white people are racist. Every last one. I didn't say that they were bad people. I didn't say they hate you. I said that they were racist. Well, what do you mean, Dr. Johnson? They don't hate me, but they're racist. Racism has nothing to do with attitude. Racism has nothing to do with emotion. Racism has nothing to do with hatred. Racism is a mature, it is a logical, psychological position that is based on 2 things that have nothing to do with anger, hate. And what are the 2 things upon which racism is built? Privilege and power. Let me say it again. Privilege and power. That means you can have a white roommate, you can have white friends, white boyfriends, white girlfriends, whatever you want to have. But at the end of the day, they are committed to the best interests of their in-group. And they are committed to that interest at the expense of your in-group. There is no white person in American history who has ever fought to eliminate white privilege. If there was one, can you please say the name now? I'll say again. Can you give me the name of a white person who has ever fought to eliminate white privilege? You can give me names of white people who fought against slavery. You can give me names of white people who fought against black poverty. You can give me the names of white people who fought against police brutality. You can give me the names of white folks who fought to improve black housing. You can give me the names of white folk who fought to help integrate the public schools. You can give me the names of white folks who fought to reduce unemployment, but I didn't ask you for that. I asked you for the names of white folk who have fought to eliminate the privilege that they enjoy vis-a-vis your oppression. Is there a name? We've been here 400 years. Surely you must have a name for me. You don't have a name. And for the white folks in the room, I'm not castigating you. I'm just educating my own community because they need to know this. See, what you don't understand about racism is racism confuses its victims by participating in struggles that you consider to be worthwhile, but at the same time, the struggles that they participate never levels the playing field for you. I'm gonna fight to get you off welfare, but you're not doing anything about the power differential between my community and yours. I'm gonna fight to eliminate police brutality. That's good, but you're not doing anything to level the playing field between my group and yours. Racism is about a power relationship between blacks and whites. Who is dealing with the power differential, not services to the needy? That don't level the playing field. Say, well, Dr. Johnson, there was one thing you could do for Black America. What would you do? 3 things. First thing, I would build a credit union or bank in every black community. And if the church don't have one, they automatically get put out of business. Any church that does not put black people to work doesn't need to exist. Any church that does not put a single black person to work does not need to exist. There is no way in heaven you can have a $100 million mortgage on a megachurch, giving all that money to the white banks that's gentrifying us out of the inner cities in the name of Jesus, and you don't hire no black children, you don't hire no black men, you don't hire no black, you have a $14 million mortgage and you don't put nobody to work. Walmart got a $14 million mortgage, but Walmart got over 500 employees. Sears and JCPenney and Macy's might have a $14 million mortgage, but they got over 1,000 employees. The black church got a $14 million mortgage and ain't got a single employee. Ain't got a nerve to have the church smack dead in the middle of a ghetto. I'll be God. Talking about they getting you ready for heaven. Getting you ready for heaven. But they ain't got a problem with you living in hell. Can somebody explain that? You getting me ready for heaven, but you ain't doing nothing about the hell I'm living in. You go to church looking for a difference. You go to church wanting some change. Pastor, come on, we got to organize. Pastor, we need power. And you go to church and the pastor goes through his book. And this is how they get you. He find the perfect quote to neutralize your black power. You want black power? Well, God said the meek shall inherit the earth. Not the powerful, but the meek. You want money to build black businesses? But God said, blessed are the poor, for they shall inherit the kingdom of heaven. You want a Black Panther Party to fight against racism? But the Lord said, if a man smacks you on one cheek, turn and give him the other and let him smack you on that one too. If I'm lying, tell me. What is the purpose of religion in 21st century black America? What is the purpose of religion in 21st century black America? The purpose of religion in 21st black America is to make black people feel blessed while being broke. The purpose of religion in 21st century black America is to make black people think they have it all when they have nothing. The purpose of religion in 21st century black America is to make you think that you're winning although you're losing. I'm a political science major. I study war and I study military science. And one thing you learn when you study military science, and I'm going to be hosting an online military science course for those of you who want to learn military science, which is not about weapons, but is more about understanding the psychology of dominating people without weapons, Sun Tzu. And when you study military science, what is the three institutions that the conqueror takes over whenever he comes into a new people's land? He takes over the church, spiritual incarceration. He takes over the school, intellectual incarceration. And he takes over the military, physical incarceration. And if you control the school, intellectual incarceration, and you control the church, spiritual incarceration, you don't even need no cops because the oppressed will kill each other. Black on black fratricide. In America, keep talking. Donald Trump. Why is Donald Trump meeting with Steve Harvey? When did Steve Harvey become a spokesperson on black folks? Why is he meeting with Ray Lewis? Since when did Ray Lewis become a spokesperson? Have you noticed that only in black America do the political leaders meet with celebrities instead of leaders? Media. When European Jews have problems, do the president go talk to Seinfeld? Have you noticed that you're the only people whose comedians and actors and basketball players represent your interests? Don't live with you. Most of them ain't even married to people who look like you. And they got a nerve to go to them. You know why they go to them? For three reasons they go to them. They go to them, number one, because they know they're not going to get a true answer. Number two, you go to the black celebrity so you can legitimize your concern for black folks without actually doing anything about it because they don't know what to tell you because they don't live with black folks and most of them psychologically stop being black the first time they got $1 million or more. Black bourgeoisie. 5 families. Some of y'all gonna be bourgeois in 10 years. I'm gonna be talking about you 10 or 20 years from now. You can't wait to be used against your people. As long as you got a nice car and a nice house and a fine woman, you don't care about what's going on with black folks. We have a civil war amongst us because we got too many people against. Isn't it amazing? Like me, people will call me pro-black. He's one of them pro-blacks. Have you ever even about to say he's one of them pro-Jews? You see that Italian? He's a pro-Italian. It's natural to be pro-Italian when you're Italian. It's natural to be pro-Jew when you're a Jew. It's natural to be pro-Latino when you're Latino, but when black folks, and for black folks, we are obscurely unique. So if the pro-blacks represent a small population of the community, what that make the rest of y'all? Anti-blacks. Anti-black power, your anti-black progress, your anti-black Jesus, your anti-black wife, your anti-black hair, your anti-black culture. Can we just be honest? If somebody offered you an opportunity to change your race and nobody would know you did, how many of you here, don't answer out loud because you're not going to be honest, social pressure, at least half this room would cash in on out and become another people? You do it anyway by the way you kill your phenotype to look like other people, so stop lying. I'm a school psychologist in the schools. My job is hard. Every day I go to school, I got to fight. I'm gonna put some boxing gloves on. I need to just put some boxing. Because every time I go to work, I got to fight. You know why I got to fight? Because some of you parents are so lazy that you'd rather put your child in special ed and give them a dumbed down curriculum because you don't want to make them learn. The other day, I dealt with a boy in the first grade with a reading disability. Can you answer the question for me? How the hell you got a reading disability? You 6! My son got ADHD. Ain't no daddy at home disorder. That's all it is. Ain't no daddy at home. Ain't no discipline at home disorder. Ain't no healthy diet at home disorder. Sugar, high fructose corn syrup, caffeine, no daddy, no gym at school, no recess at school, and you got a nerve to blame it on the baby. I'll be. Problem with the black boy is, black boy want to learn like the white boy want to learn. The problem though, is the black boy suffers from double jeopardy. My education majors, the black boy suffers from double jeopardy. My psychology and social work and criminal justice majors. And what is the double jeopardy that black boys suffer from? They're trying to survive as a male in a female-dominated institution. Reverse sexism. Schools are female institutions. Women run them. Principal might be a male, but women, 93% of America's teachers are female. And 93% of them are white female. And at least 60% of them are white racist female. So the double jeopardy that the black boy suffers from is first he has to survive as a male in a female-dominated institution, and then he got to survive as a black male in a female-dominated institution. He's being blackmailed. You want to help black boys? Give every black boy in Maryland a black male teacher. You cut it in half right now. Give every black boy in the state of Maryland a black male teacher. You will cut special ed, cut ADHD, cut psychiatric med, cut dropout, cut gangs, raise test scores, raise graduation. One thing, give every black boy a black male teacher. But why won't they do that? Why won't they give every black boy in Maryland a black male teacher? Because the schools are female institutions, white female institutions. And in order to give every black boy a black male teacher, you got to lay off a lot of white women. And white privilege doesn't allow that. You know, I was watching a women's march that they had the day after Trump. And I'm looking at black women uniting with your white sisters. Damn multiculturalists. And I'm looking at it and I'm saying, wait a minute. These black women couldn't wait to go run and walk with their white sisters. But I ain't seen not one of your white sisters march when Sandra Bland was choked to death. I ain't seen one of them march against injustice, against black folks and the black woman. So you're up here lining up with white feminists who ain't done one thing to improve your community, but you don't care. Because being a woman is more important than being black. Being a bourgeois is more important than being black. Being a Muslim is more important than being black. And you know what's sad about the black reality, y'all? Have you realized we don't have no groups that specialize in fixing our problems? You're the only people in America. You ain't got a single organization exclusively dedicated to you. If you do, I want to know the name. I ain't talking about the Hotep organizations. I'm talking about mainstream. You talking about shea butter groups. I'm talking about mainstream groups. Latinos do. Chinese do. They got the Chinese Improvement Association, Chinese Business League, Arab this, East Indian that, Mexican, Latino. What you got looking out for you alone, exclusively for you? Even if it says black, it ain't for just black. Congressional Black Caucus is multicultural. Read their mission. They changed it a couple years ago. They said we no longer just represent the interests of blacks. We represent the interests of all Americans. But America can't stand black folks. So how you going to represent the interests of the oppressor and the oppressed at the same time? Y'all fraternities and sororities, same thing. Y'all multicultural too. Y'all don't just look out for blacks no more either. Urban League, NAACP, never. Who can name me a black mainstream organization who says we are unapologetically, maybe not these words, but we are unapologetically and unequivocally 100% dedicated to the improvement and advancement of black folk? Do you know a name of a group? No, not a mainstream one. You know why? Because in America, it's not popular to be for black people. And this is why multiculturalism ain't nothing but another trap for you, because no group is going to be as concerned about black folks as they need to be, because they know white folks don't want them to be. The American power structure does not reward people for helping black folks. Remember, we used to have a black-Jewish coalition. Y'all remember that? Back in the 20s, the blacks and Jews was together. You can hardly find the Jews now. They used you and stepped off. Negro said the other day, he said, we need to have a black-Latino coalition. I said, well, first of all, what is a Latino? Because my great-grandfather, rest in peace, he was Cuban, Latino, Afro-Cuban. Last time I checked, when they brought the enslaved Africans from Africa, the two major ports for the first 200 years was Cuba and Puerto Rico. Last time I checked, Cuba was the most thoroughly organized Marcus Garvey island in the Caribbean. Latino is not a race, it's an ethnicity. At least half of which are African people, whose grandmothers look no different than the rest of our grandmothers. But when you're taught to hate yourself, you're always looking for something other label to hide under. Facts. Brother said, Doc, I'm thinking about marrying this Latino sister. Is that a conflict of interest with the Pan-African movement? I said, no. As long as she passed the two-pronged test. What's the two-pronged test, Doc? Well, number one, is she biologically African? Yes, she is. Built like a sister and everything. Good God. Okay. So she passed the first test, being biologically African. Now she got to pass the second test. And what's that? Being psychologically African. That means she identified with her race of origin. Oh no, she don't like nobody referring to her as black or Afro. Then you cannot marry her because she's psychologically a European. You got to pass the two-pronged test. Same test I use on any one of you. A sister could be blue, black, purple. But if she don't identify with being African, don't want to be referred at all as related to those from the original continent, you cannot wife her. And sisters, you cannot marry him. And sisters, you got to make you find you a strong black man who you feel comfortable enough to give the leadership role to, because unfortunately so many of our black boys are being made soft. I'm not talking homosexuality, I'm talking about posture. They're being made soft by the fact that the mothers are not holding them to a standard of discipline. I love my single black mothers. I thank y'all for the job y'all been doing, but some of y'all making your sons into the exact type of man you yourself would never want to marry. Let's just keep it real. And the fault ain't all yours because you're in an unfair situation. You got to raise boys and girls. You got to be the mother and the father. It's not fair, but there's a war on black men. And that's why we need sisters to speak up for brothers, and we need brothers to speak up for sisters and cut out this feminism and multiculturalism stuff, and let's unite under a black agenda. Nobody can save black people with black people. Problem is most of us don't even want to save ourselves. As I begin to wind down and do some questions. The second rule of racism is white people do not share power with blacks. I need y'all young people to really understand this. White people do not share power with blacks. They never have. If you got an example, I would like to hear it. Is there a country you can name me? Is there a corporation you can name me? See, I got thousands of years of history. So you can challenge me. We ain't got to talk about opinions and intellectual masturbations. We can talk about the facts. Name me a community where blacks and whites equally co-shared the power. It never has happened. It never will happen. So when somebody tells you we're building a new Baltimore, we're building a new Harlem, we're building a new Houston, we're building a new Chicago, we're building a new Detroit, you say, yes, rich whites and poor blacks are going to live in harmony. You have forgot your lessons. They come into Baltimore to clean you out of Baltimore. And guess what one of their favorite tricks is? They use the colleges to do it. We talked about this upstairs. But what I didn't share with the family upstairs is that we really want to get rid of black folks after use the charter schools. And let's talk about the charter schools for a minute. Charter schools are not your friend. I know we got black folks who run charter schools and we support them because they're doing it for a good reason, because they don't understand the greater agenda behind the charter school. See, back in the 60s and 70s, we was fighting for what? Community control of the public schools. Nobody was talking about no charter schools. We said we want to control the schools where our children go to school. And then in 1990, the good white folks came up with something known as a charter school. It's only been around since 1990. They said, listen, these black folks want to control the schools. We can't let them control the schools. They want to determine who the principal is, who the teacher is. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to give them something known as a charter school, because we know half of these revolutionaries ain't really revolutionaries. They're just looking for money. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up with something called a charter school and tell them, forget about that community control. Open up one of these charter schools, and guess what? The money that comes from the school, public school, comes with your child to the charter school. So instead of you wanting community control, you can actually give out the jobs. You don't control the school, but you can give out the jobs, and you can even pay yourself $100,000 a year as the CEO of a charter school who never goes to work and never does any work. And you're going to hire somebody else to be your principal. So thirsty Negroes who claim they care about black children, not all of them, but a lot of them, instead of continuing to fight for community control of the public school, they got co-opted with the charter school. And you do not own a charter school. That is state property. And the biggest weapon they use to clean out the black community is charter schools. Why? Because people don't feel comfortable fighting against educational initiatives. So if they want to clean blacks out of Baltimore, they just have the University of Maryland go in there and open up a satellite campus in the middle of the ghetto. And then all the black folks say, oh my God, they're bringing the college to us. Because you don't understand white supremacy. And then they open up a Starbucks. And you say, oh my God, they got a Starbucks. We got a movie theater now. We never had that. You think it's for you. So when you see that Starbucks and that Walmart, that means you're out. And so the University of Maryland starts buying up property in Baltimore, but you're not going to say that because it's in the name of education. Then the University of Maryland opens up a charter school. You say, oh my God, my child won't get a chance to get a better education. That ain't for you. Because the charter school going to hire 95% white folks. Because the charter school is being ran by white folks. And they're going to come into Baltimore, buy up all the houses, abandoned properties, the lots, everything. And in 5 years, the property value will go up. And neither you or your kids will be able to afford to live in Baltimore anymore. And he did it all behind a charter school and a fake public university expansion project. It's called Negro removal, AKA ethnic cleansing. I thought that was one of the definitions of genocide. But when you know your rules of racism, people can't play games on you. White people don't share power. You know your rules of racism. And the third rule of racism is the end justify the means. So if we got to create AIDS to get rid of black folks, we'll create AIDS. And AIDS was created not even an hour from where y'all at. Fort Detrick, Maryland. United States Army Biological Weapons Lab with a donation from the Rockefeller World Population Council. Who population they trying to control? White folks only 10%, so they ain't trying to control that. Who population they control? Black folks. We the largest in the world. Not the Chinese. Africans are the largest in the world, but it don't look that way because so many of us don't identify as African. We're Latino. We are, what else are we? Human beings. We're Muslims, Christians, Pacific Islanders. We're British, Black British. See, we don't call what we are, so they can play this number game. That's why in the 2000 census, they came up with new names for Negroes. In the year 2000, they came up with what? Biracial. You never had biracial in the census before 2000. You never had Hispanic in the census before 1970. Why did they create Hispanic in 1970? Cubans and Puerto Ricans were around long before 1970. So why all of a sudden biracial in the year 2000? You know why? Because if you can get black people to disidentify from being black in the first place, if you can get Africans to disidentify from being black in the first place, on paper, you can statistically reduce their numbers before you reduce them in reality. There's no greater weapon to exterminate a people than to have those people not wanting to be what you're trying to exterminate. And then in 2010, they came up with multiracial. What the hell is that? Any black person with any distant non-African relative can say you ain't black no more. Some of y'all do it. Some of you self-hating Negroes. I know. I had a brother look like Jimi Hendrix. Big nose, Shaka Zulu, handsome brother. Kuta Kinte. Got a nerve to tell me he was biracial. I'm still looking for the other half. I had a sister in one of the high schools, because you know I'm in a high school to do the Black History program. She stands up one day in Philadelphia and tells me, you don't know what you're talking about. We ain't all black. I got Indian in my family. You can tell by my hair. I said, no, sweetheart. You got weave and perm in your family. Now kindly take your seat. Y'all know y'all got that problem too. I'm Native American. My grandma, Cherokee, Shawnee. Negro, you crazy. It's true. My grandmother's grandmother was a full-blooded Cherokee. Mine's was. You don't hear me going around bragging about that, because no matter how much Cherokee blood is in my body, my 5 times great-grandmother was raped by the slave master who owned our family right here in Maryland, Eastern Shore. You don't hear me bragging about that. Because no matter what other blood is mixed with mine, the African predominates. We're the dominant gene. So you look like a fool running around talking about I'm part this and part, you're part crazy. We swallow up anything that mixes with us, which is one of the reasons they're trying to get rid of you. That's right, black man. Unemployed, no job, in and out of prison, homeless, miseducated, oppressed, police brutality, and with all the black man's problems, the black man could walk into a room just as broke and uneducated as he want to be, and he could be standing next to a Italian millionaire and a Jewish billionaire, and he could be standing next to an East Indian Fortune 500 CEO, and he could be standing next to a Chinese international multi-billion-dollar investment president, and that black man standing there with nothing is the only man in the room who can reproduce himself in the women of every other man standing with him. And that's why people cannot stand you. Because God gave you a natural genetic superiority over all other peoples. Same thing with you, black woman. Even though you should not be dating outside your community. But any seed that gets planted in a black woman's womb bears African fruit. That's right. The black woman can reproduce herself with any man. No other woman can say that. The black man can reproduce himself in any woman. No other man can say that. And now you know why AIDS is here. Ebola, West Nile, H1N1, swine flu, Zika, which is really short for Shanika. Shanika disease. Right down the street, Fort Detrick, Maryland. You don't believe me? You can ride right by it. There's a big sign, United States Biological Weapons. What do you think they make in the lab known as biological weapons? You think they're making bug spray in there? What are they making? Roach repellent? The United States Army biological weapons, that means they make weapons that selectively seek out people with high concentrations of melanin in them. Facts. It's too many black folks. And all y'all was crazy over Hillary Clinton. I didn't understand that either, because Hillary Clinton was a big-time population control junkie. Her and Bill Clinton were going to Africa for years paying black women to get hysterectomies and all types of abortions and stuff. You black women run around with the white feminists, you better check out their agenda. Margaret Sanger, who started Planned Parenthood, was a white feminist. Do your research. Talking about you a feminist. Your number one problem in slavery was the white woman. Did you not know that? The white woman was the black woman's nightmare on the slave plantation. Why did the master sell your kids away? Because he had to prove to his white wife who was jealous of you and your curves that he didn't have more affection for you than her. And to prove that he had to sell all your babies off, she made him do it. She made him whip you in front of the whole town to prove he didn't have no affection. And here we go 150 years later, you want to march with him against Trump. And the same women who marched against Trump voted for Trump again. Don't get the hell out of here. Who y'all playing with tonight? Who y'all playing with tonight? I'll go a little bit deeper than that. The size of the crowd in the inauguration when they said it was extremely low, that was a media stunt. White folks was out there in big numbers. Trump got more support than what you think. The only reason why the media is falsely projecting that Trump is getting no support is because they don't want the whole world to know that America in the 21st century has returned to a white nationalist agenda. They agree with everything that man is doing, and they love it. But they have to make it look like it's him so they don't lose their relationships with the rest of the world that Obama built up after George Bush destroyed them. These are the facts. I hope you're reading more than what you get taught in this university. Because the books you need to read will never come across your desk at the university. You have to subject yourself to a second education. Yes. Black parents, no more special ed, unless it's necessary. If they're autistic, they need it. If they have severe profound mental retardation, they need it. If they're deaf or blind, have a speech and language impairment, they may need it. But emotional disturbance is a joke. ADHD is a joke. The learning disability is an absolute joke. The learning disability is an opinion. It is a myth. It is a theory. It is not a fact. You cannot scientifically prove it if you can't show me. My child got an IEP for reading problems because you're a lazy parent. You know why we got these learning disabilities? Because we got iPod and Xbox and cell phone and Twitter. How many hours your child spend tweeting? How many hours your child spend on the internet? How many hours your child play video games? I'm willing to bet that his time having fun is at least 5 times greater than his time preparing for his future. When you out there buying Christmas gifts to a tune of $2 and $3 billion every Christmas, financing your son's future incarceration. Because if he can't read by the time he finishes the 5th grade, there's a 75% chance he'll be spending some of his adulthood in a maximum detention center. And guess where they're going to put the maximum detention center? They're going to put it not in Baltimore, not in D.C., they're not going to put it in North Philly. It's not going in Compton. Guess where the jail going to go? Far out in a white suburb so they can give a white suburb who could not even stand black folks an economic stimulus package by hiring them to be the security guards in your son's jail. Oh, yes. Oh, you didn't know that? Small towns in white America, what is one of the main things they do to stimulate the economy? They come to D.C. They come to D.C. They have lobbyists who they pay to put pressure on U.S. congressmen to build jails for black people in white suburbs where black people ain't even allowed to lay their head. If I'm wrong, tell me. If I'm wrong, tell me. And if your professor disputes it, I'll debate him right here in front of you. He will never do that. They know better than to do that. The black bourgeois will talk about me, but they won't challenge me. I have them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They know better. The white ones too. Oh, he's so racist. Well, why don't you put your facts on the table, Sally? As I close, a couple of announcements, and then we'll do some Q&A. And then when we're done, if you don't have a copy of my book, Psychoacademic Holocaust, I suggest you get it back there, especially you parents. Education majors, psychology majors, social work majors, criminal justice majors, law majors. Well, if you're just raising a black child, you better read it. It's the only book ever written in this country. I made history, that's right. That teaches black parents the ins and outs of the miseducation machine, but most importantly, how to beat it. They want you to put your child in special ed. You don't want to. You want to know how to keep them out? Read the book. Your son is on ADHD meds. He's taking 20 milligrams of Seroquel to deal with his behavior. Now, Seroquel is an antipsychotic. Why is they giving a 5-year-old Seroquel, an antipsychotic, to deal with a behavior problem? Because in America, it is not illegal to prescribe a medicine to deal with a problem that the medicine wasn't even created for. I'll show you how to get over that. Your child was evaluated. They said your child got a learning disability. You don't agree. Guess what? You got a right to a second opinion, parents. Federal law says if you don't agree with the evaluation, you got a right to a second opinion. And who pays the bill? The school district. Your child in special ed, your child ain't learned, you've been in special ed 5 years. What does the law say? The law says if a parent can prove that the school district is not meeting the needs of a special learner, they have to pay for that child to receive the appropriate education at a private school. And the district pays for it. These are the laws. These are the laws. You read the book, you'll be ready. But if you're raising little kids, boys or girls, and you ain't read that book, you ain't serious. You can't possibly read everything. But you got to learn how to read the right things. If you have a child between the age of 11 and 17, I will be hosting the 2nd annual Dr. Umar Unapologetically African Black College and Consciousness Tour. Last year we did New York. We took them to Cheney and Lincoln, our 2 oldest HBCUs. We took them to the Harriet Tubman House. We took them to Frederick Douglass' grave. We took them to the Great Blacks and Wax Museum, the Benjamin Banneker home that many of you never even been to, even though it's only a few miles away from here. Benjamin Banneker, that black man who modernized the clock, invented the almanac, designed Washington, D.C., and called Thomas Jefferson a hypocrite for talking about every man is created equal, but you own over 400 slaves yourself. We took them to the Nat Turner land, where a preacher by the name of Reverend Nathaniel Turner on my birthday, August the 21st, 1831, said God gave him a vision and a mission to slay the oppressor with his own weapons. And he got together with Hark and Travis and Nelson and Sam, and on August the 21st, the anniversary of the Haitian Revolution, Nat Turner went from house to house, slaying every oppressor he could find. And guess what, sisters? One thing you didn't see in the movie, Birth of a Nation. Well, there's a lot you didn't see in the movie, but I liked the movie. I thought the brother did a good job with the economic constraints that he had. But it's so sad that a brother could do a good job like that and put the black woman on such a pedestal in the movie, but not have a black woman he put on the pedestal in his own life. You see the way he loved on that sister in that movie? I think Nate Parker dealing with some internal challenges right now because she was fine. I wanted to go back to 1830. Jerry! But Nat Turner had an army of female enslaved Africans. Oh yes. Do your research on Nat Turner. There was a brigade of sisters who fought with Nat. One of his top lieutenants was a woman. They said when they found his sister, when they finally caught her to go hang her, they said that that sister, rest in peace, cursed the European from the second they caught her until the second they hanged her. And she said, when I die, I'm going to come back and do it again. A black woman. I saw Hidden Figures for the first time yesterday. That was powerful. I did not know that story. I don't know who produced that. Was that Oprah again? Who did that? White folks? It wasn't even us, was it? Oh, Pharrell did it. Shout out to Pharrell. It's good to know he can be black sometimes. But shout out to Pharrell. I appreciate that. Because that means them sisters defied so many stereotypes. Because first of all, there's a myth in education that women ain't good at math, black or white. Well, regardless of color, there's a myth in education that women ain't supposed to be good at math. So not only did they explode the myth that women ain't good at math, they exploded the myth that black folks is good at math, and then they exploded the myth that black women ain't good at math. Imagine being at NASA, top scientists and mathematicians in the world, and you shopping all the white males there, and you's a queen? Good God Almighty. That's what we come from. That's our DNA. What's the purpose of life? Why are we here? Why did God put you here at this time? Is it to serve white folks? No. And it ain't to serve Chinese either, who are about to take over after the white folks is done. It's in your Lord's Prayer if you just pay attention. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. Where on earth? The will be done on earth as it is in heaven. You are here to do what? Manifest God on this level. But the preacher got got you thinking you're only here to get ready to die. You are here to make heaven on earth. One thing my Hotep brothers and sisters don't understand when they study the science of ancient Egypt and Kemet, what did the ancestors do in Kemet? They built the greatest civilization in a desert! Why did they do that? Why did they go through hundreds and thousands of years of building the world's greatest civilization in a place where life is least likely to sustain itself? To show us now that impossible is an opinion. We can do this. Young people, don't you ever become pessimistic. One of the biggest problems we have as black folks is most of us are being handicapped and handcuffed by an intense, negativistic pessimism that kills our ambitions before we even get started. A couple months ago when the students at the University of Missouri protested, y'all remember that? I saw the contradiction. The contradiction was, why you protesting a white university to keep on giving $30,000 a year when you could bring that to Bowie State? Why are you protesting? And then the students up at Harvard and Yale, the black students protested racism. But why are you fighting white folks to give them $50,000 a year? Bring that money to Morgan State or Coppin. But did I criticize them? No. You want to know why? And this is for the adults in the world. Because sometimes we can be too critical of the next generation. It's okay that they ain't got it all right. At least they trying to do something right.
That's right.
So you leave them alone and let them work it out. We wasn't at the level of consciousness we got right now 10 years ago, 20 years ago. When I was 20, I ain't had a knowledge of self I got at 40. I ain't had the political analysis I got now when I was 18. But if people older than me beat me down and told me how wrong I was every time I tried to do something right, I'll never try again. And sometimes I think that elders can infect the next generation with their own debilitating pessimism. Be quiet. If you ain't got nothing good to say, don't say it at all. So this year, brothers and sisters, we're leaving from Atlanta for the 11 to 17-year-old college tour. Mark your calendars, June 28th to July 12th. June 28th to July 12th, your child has to be in Atlanta on the night of the 27th. You can fly him on the airplane. We will pick him up from the airport. You can bring him by Amtrak, Greyhound, drive them yourself. It don't matter, but I do have chaperones. We can get the child for you. You ain't got to bring them. Okay? We doing Morehouse, Spelman, Clark, the Dr. King Center, the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis. That's where Dr. King was murdered on April the 4th, 1968 by a hitman by the Italian Mafia with support from the KKK, paid for by the FBI. And you can read all that in a book called Orders to Kill by William Pepper, Dr. King family attorney who sued and won in court proving that it wasn't James Earl Ray who killed Dr. King, but it was the FBI working with the Mafia and the Klan. This is a fact. It was proven in court. But when you watch the History Channel, what do they tell you? James Earl Ray. Why are you still saying James Earl Ray when a court case has proved definitively that the government killed King, not James Earl Ray? So your children will go. They will see the spot where Dr. King breathed his last. We want to take them to Tennessee State, South Carolina State, Lamona Owen College, Tuskegee. They're going to go to the Dr. George Washington Carver Museum, the Selma African Holocaust Institute, the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. They're going to walk across that bridge that our ancestors walked across on Bloody Sunday. They're going to go to the Oyotunji African village in South Carolina and learn something about African spirituality before Jesus was born, before Moses was born, before Muhammad was born. Black people been praying to God. We created all the religions, but we had a religion before the religions. And then they're going to go on that Charleston Civil War trail, on that Charleston, South Carolina boat ride. They're going to go and see where my cousins, the sons of Frederick Douglass, Lewis, and Charles, helped storm Fort Wagner, Massachusetts 54th Colored Regiment, most valiant regiment in American military history. They're going to take that boat ride and go over there where those black men stood toe-to-toe with white racists. Even when white men wouldn't stand up and fight, the brothers did it. They're going to see all that. That's why we call it Black College in Consciousness. They're going to have fun too. We want to take them to the amusement park, take them to the movies, eat at different African restaurants, play paintball in the park. We got a score to settle because the chaperones lost last year. We coming back. I've been working out. It's all the kids versus us. We won one game, they won two, so they up 2-1. We got to get them this summer. paybacks. But if you got a child between 11 and 17, I hope you didn't spend all their money on Christmas gifts. Because if you know your son or daughter need to be with me, and I ain't just talking about the ones who's struggling, I want the high achievers too. And why do I want the high achievers? Because we do a bad job of keeping our talent in the community. That's right. The ones with that 130 IQ, we got to hold on to them because that's the ones that the Department of Defense want. That's the one the Bilderbergs want. We got to keep them loyal to their own community. So send me the high achievers, the low achievers, and the average achievers. But I'm telling you now, parents, don't send your child with me for 2 weeks. Because we're going to be going for 14 days and 14 nights if you ain't ready for them to come back home unapologetically African. I promise you one, you're dealing with a psychologist. I know how to make a Negro a free man. And I will make your child over from a Negro to a free man. I promise you when they come back, they will not be what you sent. Your daughter might cut all the perm out and come back, boom! But if you want to have a good time, why do I do this? I do this because I can't wait until we got the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. And speaking of the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, I'll be in Baltimore this Saturday to look at 3 different schools that are for sale there in Baltimore to see if we're going to put the school there. We have a school in Detroit that looks like it will work for us as well. So Detroit is looking strong. There's another school in Atlanta that's also looking strong, okay? But I want to keep on looking at Baltimore because Baltimore is only 2 hours from Philly and I can get back and forth. So if we can do Baltimore, plus Frederick Douglass, which is a kinsman of mine, he escaped from slavery to freedom from Baltimore, and Harriet Tubman, which is my #1 shero, she came through Baltimore, and plus I like going to the Senegalese restaurant in Baltimore, and I like the harbor, and I like my favorite bookstore, Everyone's Place on North Avenue, and I love going to the Great Blacks and Wax Museum. So y'all don't know, but when I get down, because you know doing this work is hard dealing with y'all Negroes. Y'all hate anything black. So you know what I do when I be down? You know what I do? I drive right on down from Philly. And I go to the Great Blacks and Wax, and I go into that slave ship. And I tell them to turn the music on when it says, "We remember." And they got the little libation, and I stand there and I pour libations. And I let all the pain come right on out of me. Right there, that's what I do. Until I can get over to Africa, that's what I do. So the Great Blacks and Wax is my battery pack. And y'all better support the Great Blacks and Wax Museum. Because guess what? Although it might not be everything it need to be, it's everything it should be. And one thing that is more than is that trifling museum they just built down in DC for y'all. That museum is a disgrace. Smithsonian National African American Museum for History and Culture. I can't tell. It looked like the Smithsonian National African American Museum for Sports and Entertainment. Because the exhibits on entertainment and music are more thoroughly done, look much more better, and get more attention than the freedom fighters and the ancestors. Most of the money went on LeBron and Michael Jordan and Serena and Venus statues. I ain't see one statue of Harriet or Fred. And then you go down into the basement, what they serving you down there in the restaurant. You know what they serving you? Fried chicken. If you don't believe me, you need to go. That's right. And how much did that museum cost? $549 million. Let me say it again. $549 million. Let me say it one more time. $549 million. Half of it was your tax money so people could come from around the world and see how you went from slavery to freedom to basketball to DJing to chicken. Great Blacks and Wax is 50 times better than that museum. 50 times better than that museum. The National Civil Rights Museum, 50 times better than that. Slave Haven in Memphis, 50 times better than that. The African Holocaust Museum in Philadelphia, 50 times better than that. Next announcement. If you've never been to Africa, consider going with me. I'm taking my 4th annual Unapologetically African tour. We go for 2 weeks. We go to 2 different countries, 7 nights and 7 nights. It's a total of 14. First year we did Morocco and Ghana. Second year we did Egypt and Ghana. For all my hoteppers, you can climb up in the pyramid and hotep yourself to death. Last year we did Senegal and South Africa. And I ain't chose the countries for this year, but I'm looking at a combination of 2 East African countries. I think we're going to do Kenya and Tanzania, or Malawi and Ethiopia. We might do Ghana for one of them and then come back. Ghana is unique because Ghana is one of the most tourist-friendly countries for brothers and sisters going home who are trying to reconnect with themselves. A lot of countries have given up their traditional culture. Ghana's is still very present. Not to mention Ghana has more slave dungeons than any other country on the continent. Okay? The dates for the trip, last week of July, first week of August. Last week of July, first week of August. College tour, June 28th to July the 12th. And then there's one more trip I want to throw out there for those of you who are unapologetically African. Y'all know I'm a Pan-Africanist. Pan-Africanists, we believe in what? Repatriation. We believe that some of us got to go back to Africa and help build Africa up because central to Pan-African thought is as Africa goes, so goes the rest of the world. So goes us. Chinese get respect wherever Chinese live because China get respect. Jews get respect wherever European Jews live because Israel get respect. East Indians get respect wherever they live because East India get respect. And African people, you all, I don't care if you in Jamaica, I don't care if you in Baltimore, I don't care if you in Nigeria, I don't care if you in London, Toronto, or Montreal, you get no respect wherever you live because your ancestral homeland, Africa, gets no respect. As she goes, so goes the rest of us. You wanna know why we ain't fixed this problem with racism yet? Because you ain't fixed the problem of African oppression yet. So goes the mother, so goes the child. I'm taking about 50 of y'all to Africa with me for 60 to 90 days. If you can stand to stay with me in Africa for 60 to 90 days, we're gonna live together in the same village. Temporary housing. I have an engineer over there. He's investigating the cost on our temporary housing. Hopefully we'll be able to cover that with the money that we raise. All you have to worry about is your communication and your transportation. We want to live there for 90 days and we're going to start laying the groundwork for a community of Africans in Africa who come from the West but want to go back home. Some of you will be on the education team. You will study the school system and how we can build our own school there. Some of you will be on the religious team. You will study the churches and the religious institutions and see how we can create our own uniquely African spiritual system there. Some of you will be on the medical team. You will study the hospitals and you will study the clinics and see what can we offer to our brothers and sisters over there that will generate an income for us and allow us to not only employ ourselves and repatriate more Africans, but help our brothers and sisters there because we are not going there to build black capitalism. We are not going there to build black capitalism. We are going there to build Pan-Africanism. So if you're interested in that, I know some of y'all in college, you might not be able to go away that long, okay? Unless you take a leave of absence, and I think you need to go ahead and finish your studies because this won't be the first. We're going to try to do this every year, at least 1 or 2 a year, repatriation task force, 60 to 90 days. But let me be clear with y'all right now. Leave all your Europeanisms right here. Sisters, you know I love you from the bottom of my heart. And I know some of you might have scalp burn. But you cannot come with me with perms and weaves in your hair. We're not going to Africa to show them how sick we are. We're going to Africa to show them how we can all work together to fix our problems. So you got to be nappy and natural. Brothers, you cannot bring your white girlfriends with you. She has to stay here. You cannot bring your basketballs, your video games, or your Jerry curl kit. It must stay here. I'm serious about that. Same thing when we build the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. It's going to be an unapologetically African, happy to be nappy institution. If you haven't donated, make sure you do. You can do so at GoFundMe.com/Dr. Umar. GoFundMe.com/Dr. Umar. Or you can mail the check on what it orders in, FDMG Academy, P.O. Box 6872, Philadelphia, 19132. Some of y'all who follow my work know a lot of Negroes been beating me up about my school. They said, why he ain't built a school yet? Well, I'm trying to figure out what Negro in their right mind think you can build a school with $600,000. But here's the more interesting thing. You want my curriculum, but you never asked your child's school for theirs. You want my business plan, but you ain't never went to Baltimore public schools and asked for their business plan. Isn't it amazing that our kids been being miseducated by white folks for over 100 years and we never asked for no paperwork? But soon one of our own stand up who's an expert in this. I'm not the whole tech educator. I got the credentials. I've ran schools. I've done this. I got the paperwork. They have nothing but questions, but I ain't worried about that. Our kids need to school, they're going to get to school, and we done already set a date. The first day of school will be the anniversary of the Nat Turner resurrection, August 21st, 2018. So we got just under 2 years that school will be open. I don't know how many grades we're going to start with, but ultimately we want to encompass the entire preschool to 12th, and then I want to open a community college, and then I want to establish America's first contemporary black college. We know we got historically black colleges that teach us to fit in with white folks. We need contemporary black colleges that teach us how to build for ourselves. And I want to build the first one. We're going to teach economic science at Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey. Your child will learn how to do their own taxes. They will learn how to write their own business plan. They will invest in stock. They will master real estate. We will teach agricultural science. They will grow their own food. They will know how to test the soil. We will teach spiritual science. They will understand voodoo, Lakumi, Palo, Santeria, Ifa, Nation of Islam, Rastafari, Moorish science, God and earth science. I'm giving them all of them. Because anything is better than Michael Bolton on your wall. We're also going to teach them the science of the black family and black community. Girls will be taught how to be women and mothers. Boys will be taught how to be men and fathers. Oh yes. We also will teach military and political science, the laws of white supremacy. Why is Africa the richest continent on the earth, but the people are the poorest? Why is 1 out of every 4 black males under some sort of supervision from the criminal justice system? Why only 1 out of every 4 black women gets married? Why is AIDS the #1 killer of black women between 38 and 58 when we were originally told that AIDS was a disease of gay white males? How does it become the #1 killer of heterosexual black females? That's right. My school will prepare your sons to be leaders. My schools will raise them to be alpha men. My schools will teach them how to build their own nation. I promise you, 50 years from now, the movers and shakers and changers of the Pan-African revolutionary struggle will be graduates of the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. And after we're done with the boys, we're going to go to the girls. The Anna Douglas and Amy Garvey Academy. We're not going to leave out the girls. We're starting with the boys because the war against the boys is 50 times worse. Yes, our girls are catching hell, but it does not compare to what they do on the boys. Special ed is almost exclusively male. ADHD is almost exclusively male. Conduct disorder is almost exclusively male. Psychiatric med is almost exclusively male. Dropout is almost exclusively male. Juvenile detention is almost exclusively male. So we're not ignoring the girls, we're just starting where we need it most because the squeaky wheel gets the oil. In conclusion, my ancestor, Frederick Douglass, and my paternal ancestors come from Maryland, Talbot County, Eastern Shore. Every year I visit their gravesite. My 4 times great-grandmother, great-grandfather, Stephen and Caroline Bailey. They're buried in an old cemetery right across the street from the old Denton church that they helped found where Frederick Douglass used to speak, because Frederick Douglass and my 4 times great-grandfather were half brothers because the slave master was their dad, and they were first cousins because the slave master raped 2 sisters. If you ever read the autobiography of Frederick Douglass, you hear him talk about Cousin Stephen. Growing up on Tuckahoe Creek with Cousin Stephen. Well, Cousin Stephen is my 4 times great-grandfather. 1701, a black man named Bailey was stolen from West Africa. He was brought to Maryland. He married a black woman by the name of Selah, for whom my 5-year-old daughter is named. In 1745, they had Grandma Jenny. In 1774, 2 years before Thomas Jefferson's Declaration of Independence, Grandma Jenny gave birth to Grandma Betsy. Grandma Betsy was born a slave, enslaved, but she married a free black man, Grandpa Isaac. They had 12 children. One daughter was named Harriet, another daughter was named Betsy after her mother. These 2 sisters were raped by Aaron Anthony, the Irish man who owned our family. As a result of that rape, Aunt Harriet gave birth to Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey. At the age of 20, Frederick Bailey ran away from slavery in 1838, changed his name to hide his identity on the fugitive slave trail. And so Frederick Bailey became Frederick Douglass. In 1819, his half-brother and first cousin was born, my 4 times great-grandfather, also a product of a rape by the same man, giving birth to Grandpa Stephen Henry Bailey, who was not as lucky as Frederick to run away. Grandpa Stephen remained a slave in the border state of Maryland. He married a black woman who was also a fellow enslaved African, Grandma Caroline Wilson, who didn't learn her numbers and alphabet until 1909, the year the NAACP was founded. They gave birth to Grandpa George Washington Bailey, my great-great-great-grandfather, who became the first black public school teacher in Talbot County, Maryland. Facts. During the Civil War, he fought with Grandpa Stephen in the United States Colored Troops of Maryland. Frederick, 2 sons, cousins Lewis and Charles, went north to Boston. They fought in the 54th Massachusetts Colored Regiment. If you've ever seen the movie Glory, you've seen the story of the sons of Frederick Douglass. After the Civil War, Grandpa George married Grandma Annie. They had Grandma Caroline. She moves to Philadelphia. She has Grandma Vivian. Grandma Vivian marries a Spanish-speaking Cuban immigrant named Cicero. They give birth to Grandma Ida, who's still alive. She meets and marries James Johnson, my great-grandfather, who's now deceased. They have Jamal Johnson, he meets Barbara. And in North Philadelphia, on the anniversary of the Haitian Revolution and the Nat Turner War and the George Jackson War and the Frederick Douglass Fugitive Slave Convention and the birth of Krishna, the god of the East Indies, and even Jesus, if you do your research, was born August 21st. I was born in North Philly for one reason and one reason only, to wake you up and prove heaven on earth. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Can we have another round of applause, please?
Put your hands together for Black Male Agenda. Remember what I said earlier, when we did the college tour last year, Bowie State Tour fell on a date and time that we couldn't make coming back from the Nat Turner land. So I think, did I text you directly, Trey, or did I just put it out on social network that I needed somebody? Did I hit you directly? I either hit Trey directly or I put it out in social network world and I said, I need somebody from Bowie State to do the tour for us because I don't want our students to miss out on Bowie State headed back up to New York. This was the end of the tour. And Brother Trey hit me back and said, we'll do it. They didn't ask for no money or anything. And so, because they did that, I promised them that I would come to Bowie State to speak on behalf of their organization. So, I want to thank this brother and I want to thank this organization for looking out for our children during the college tour.
We're just going to have one more small presentation by Sister Tiana.
Hotep family.
Hey.
Thank you. I want you to imagine. Imagine you were raised in a world that taught you needed to be somebody's instead of be somebody. And even when they taught you your people's history, it damn sure got spotty, almost as if they'd given way to the patriarchal aspect of this oppressive system. Imagine your counterpart steady talking over you and refusing just to listen. Imagine being reduced to your bust to waist to hip ratio and hearing yourself degraded every time you tune into the radio. Imagine beauty supply stores filled with hair straightening products and skin bleaching cream. Imagine selling your African soul for the American dream. Imagine being the first up in arms when they blow out his brains and those same brothers staying silent as you scream, say her name. So no, your love for the black woman has not been all vindicated. I wish you brothers wanted to protect my body as much as you wish to penetrate it. Imagine red blood running down your dark brown skin, causing yourself physical pain to mirror the mental within. Imagine all of that. And then imagine still getting up every day to show the world that while we bend, we don't break. Imagine for a second, my brothers, the black woman's fate. Goddess, you are so much more than the sum of all the people who were too weak to handle the reality of you because they were so focused on the figment. You birthed the whole world, and don't you let them tell you different. Shout out to my sisters. I had to get that out of the way, but you can trust and believe that's not all I got to say because Mama had to take a test to see if I'd be a boy or a girl, but there was one thing they knew for certain before I came into this world, and that's that I'd be black. You tell them to respect your existence or expect your resistance. Respect my existence or expect my resistance. Because I done a lot of poems, but I swear that this one's different. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Same way you can lead someone to knowledge, but you can't make them think. I'm telling y'all to fight back. And what does fighting back look like when you're black? It's growing our own food, policing our communities, knowing which vaccines your baby needs, and to which ones we have natural immunities. It's unsubscribing to those European beauty standards and unlearning that chemo is the only way to treat cancer. It's building our own schools in a place for the youth to build their homes in. We can't keep sending our kids to Caesar and then be mad when they come home as Romans. Oh, say does that blood-splattered banner yet wave? It's the land of the free except for the son of the slave. I'm not trying to carve out a niche or get in where I fit in. I'm trying to reprogram people's minds and dismantle a whole system. And when they ask me what I'm willing to do, I'll say whatever it takes until they write my name in her story as one of the greats. I'm sorry. As one of the greats. I'm sorry. You can manifest your revolt on any platform you choose. Freedom bells are ringing. Wake up or hit snooze. There's something worse than being blind, and that's sight with no vision. So play around if you want to, but I'm out here on a mission. Always listen with discernment and see with your third eye. And I'm so glad y'all are tuning in, but the revolution will not be televised.
Lastly, we have a personal message for UMAR. Can you come back up to the stage, please? By Brother Trey.
Peace, Black family. It's good to see all of y'all wonderful faces. A lot of familiar faces, and there's a lot of new faces. It's all welcome. And I appreciate y'all for coming out, and we appreciate y'all on behalf of Brothers of Mayat and Black Male Agenda. This brother right here to my right, he's been a great friend and a mentor to me. He don't even know. I definitely look to this brother for guidance and wisdom as I embark on this journey to try to liberate my people as much as I can and do what I can do in the community. I've been following this brother for some years now, and I can say truly, I've grown a friendship with this brother. I talk to this brother a lot. I ask for guidance and understanding, and helping him out whatever he needs at different lectures or whatever the case may be. I like to be there for him just like he did for us with the event tonight. That was a small little token of help we did in the summertime with Brothers of Mayat and Black Male Agenda, helping them with the tour in the summertime. And you shouldn't be having to be thankful, but like, he shouldn't have to thank me for that. That should just be automatically, that comes with the territory. You say you want this, you say you want to liberate your people, you do what you can do to do that. So that was just a small token for what is more to come. I appreciate this brother, Dr. Umar, man. He's a great leader in the community. He gets a lot of flack, and a lot of people try to come at him, say his credentials are whatever the case may be. But it's just, the enemy just trying to take down another force that's trying to liberate our people. So I would like to give this brother another round of applause, please. Before I turn to appreciation, we would like to present Dr. Umar Johnson with an award of our appreciation. We appreciate you, brother. Peace and love.
One love. Wasn't expecting that.
And you can ask some questions when we do book signing and everything towards the back area. Make sure you support Black men and support Black entrepreneurship in general. That's key to liberation of our people as well. And just take what you can take from tonight. If you don't agree with some things, okay, you know what I'm saying? It's not meant for everybody to agree with everything, but you don't agree with your parents with a lot of things, but you still listen to them. So just take what you can take, apply it to your life, and let's help change the world. Without further ado, we're gonna do the book signing and pictures and everything towards the back, but line up accordingly and in a line. We'll move forward from there. Thank you for coming out. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. One love.
Okay.
I don't usually do this. This is my first time ever. So I'm probably gonna have to do it at Norfolk and Morgan. But if you have a student ID, If you would like to purchase anything at my table, Queen Mother, it's half off. So the hoodies are 30, they're 15 if you have a student ID. The books are 20, they're 10 if you have a student ID. And the DVDs are 10, they're 5 if you have a student ID. And you can use credit card. We do have a credit card machine. Like I said, it's my first time doing that. I know I'm gonna get in trouble now at all the other universities, so don't tell nobody.